My ex called me after 2 years, and I'm still not sure why. It was a Thursday morning when I got the call. I was sitting in my office, half listening to a conference call, trying to finish the final draft of a report, when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen made my stomach drop. Emily, my ex-girlfriend. It had been nearly 2 years since we broke up. We'd both moved on, or so I thought. I hadn't heard from her in ages, not since the day she walked out of my life without any explanation, leaving behind a mess of unanswered questions. My mind raced as I stared at the phone, trying to figure out what this could be about. I debated ignoring the call. It felt like opening an old wound. But something told me this wasn't just another casual check-in. I hesitated for a second longer before swiping the screen. Hello, Jake. Emily's voice came through the line, soft but shaky. I need to talk to you. It's important. Her voice sounded nothing like I remembered, confident and calm in a way I could never forget. Now, there was an undercurrent of something more fragile, something I hadn't heard in her tone since before everything fell apart between us. Is everything okay? I asked, my voice betraying the concern I hadn't realized I still had for her. No. Well, yes, but no. I don't really know where to begin. She paused, and I could almost hear her gathering her thoughts. I leaned back in my chair, the report forgotten for a moment. Take your time. There was another long pause on the line before she spoke again, her voice quieter now. I need you to come meet me. It's about what happened between us. And I can't do this over the phone. I didn't know what to think. Part of me was furious that after everything, she was calling me up like this, asking to meet. But the other part of me, the part that missed her and, if I was honest, probably always had, couldn't help but feel drawn to what she was saying. Where do you want to meet? I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check. I'll text you the address. Can you make it today? I don't know how much time I have. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Yeah, I'll be there in a couple of hours. Thanks, Jake. I'll be waiting. The line went dead, and I sat there for a moment, staring at my phone. The sudden rush of old emotions caught me off guard. I hadn't realized how much I'd bottled up, how many questions I had left unanswered. I hadn't expected to hear from her, certainly not like this. The last time I saw Emily was at the coffee shop around the corner from my apartment. We'd talked for hours, laughed, and even shared a kiss. Then, the next day, she disappeared. No explanation, no warning. Just gone. I had spent months asking myself why. Why would someone just vanish without a word? Did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? But no one ever gave me an answer. And now, nearly 2 years later, she was asking for a meeting. I glanced at the time. I had to leave for the meeting soon, but my mind was racing. What could she possibly want to say? Was this an apology? An explanation? Or was it something more complicated? I stood up from my desk, grabbing my jacket and keys. I glanced at the draft I had been working on, but it felt irrelevant now. My head wasn't in the office anymore. It was in that strange conversation with Emily. The emotions I thought I had buried were bubbling up again. The address she texted was for a small, nondescript cafe near the outskirts of the city. It wasn't far from where we used to live, and the familiarity of the place made my chest tighten. I hadn't been back to that part of town in a long time. It was a place full of memories, both good and bad. As I drove, the distance between my office and the cafe felt longer than it was. The city's skyline slowly shifted into the quieter, older parts of town, and the nerves in my stomach grew with each passing block. What was I even expecting? I pulled into a small parking lot, my hands tight on the steering wheel. I took a deep breath and got out of the car, my steps slow and hesitant. The cafe was small, with a single awning over the entrance. Inside, the dim lighting and soft music made the place feel intimate, almost too intimate for what I was about to walk into. I pushed open the door, and there she was. Emily sat at a table in the corner, her back to the window. She hadn't seen me yet, and for a moment, I just stood there, watching her. She hadn't changed much, at least physically. The same brown hair, the same sharp features, the same way she held herself with a sense of quiet confidence. But something about her was different now. Her eyes, though, were the same. And when she looked up and saw me standing there, I could see the emotion flash across her face. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't even relief. It was fear. I took a deep breath and walked toward the table where Emily was sitting. The weight of her gaze on me felt heavier than I remembered. There was no warm smile, no familiar excitement to see me again. Instead, her eyes were filled with hesitation, like she didn't know how to look at me anymore. "Jake," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper, as though speaking too loudly might break something fragile between us. I stopped a few feet away from the table, unsure of what to do. It had been so long, and everything felt wrong. The air between us was thick, like there was a wall I couldn't see but could feel. "Hey," I managed to say, sitting down across from her. I didn't want to seem too eager, but there was no hiding the awkward tension in the room. "You look good," I added, almost instinctively. She gave a weak smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. "Thanks. You do too." A few moments of silence passed, the kind of silence where you know both people are struggling to find the right words, but can't seem to say anything. It felt like everything that needed to be said had already been said in the 2 years of absence, except that none of it had been said, at least not directly. "So, what is it?" I finally asked, breaking the silence. "Why did you call me?" "After all this time?" Emily seemed to hesitate again. She fiddled with the coffee cup in front of her, avoiding eye contact. I didn't know who else to talk to. The words were simple, but the way she said them left me with more questions than answers. "Why me? After everything? You didn't think to reach out before?" I couldn't stop myself from asking. The anger, the confusion, it was all bubbling to the surface. "I didn't think I could," she said, her voice cracking slightly. I didn't know how. I felt my frustration grow. "You just left, Emily. You disappeared, and I had no idea why. No explanation. No reason. You just..." I cut myself off, feeling my emotions threaten to spill over. I looked down at my hands, gripping the edge of the table. "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry." I could feel my heart sinking at her words. "Sorry. After all this time." That was all she had to say. The apology felt too late, too weak. "So, what happened?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "Why did you leave? Why didn't you tell me anything? Was it something I did?" She shook her head, looking almost pained. "No, it wasn't you, Jake. It was me. I wasn't ready for everything, and when it all got too much, I panicked. I ran." She paused, her voice faltering as she tried to find the right words. "I was scared. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to ask how she could have just run away without a second thought, but looking at her at the fragile way she was sitting there, trembling slightly, made me pause. There was something in her eyes that made me hesitate. Was it regret or fear? Was it both? I didn't know how to deal with everything we were going through. And then, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I thought leaving would be the easiest way to fix everything, but now I realize I made a huge mistake," she continued. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "And now?" She met my gaze, her eyes searching mine as though waiting for some sign, some hint of forgiveness. "Now, I don't know what to do. I know I can't change the past, but I want to try and make things right. I know I can't fix what happened between us, but maybe we can at least talk. Maybe you can help me understand why I did it." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Did she really think she could just waltz back into my life after disappearing without a trace? That we could just pick up where we left off? "I don't know if I can help you, Emily," I said, my voice low. "You walked out without a word, without even a reason, and I had to pick up the pieces. You left me alone to figure out what happened. Do you know how hard that was?" "I know," she said, her voice barely audible. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to understand. I just needed to see you, to explain myself. I've carried this guilt around for so long, and I can't keep running from it. I can't keep running from you." I sat back in my chair, trying to process everything. My heart was a tangled mess of anger and sadness, but there was also a part of me that still wanted to believe her. Maybe it was the past we had, the good memories, the ones that kept flashing in my mind every time I looked at her. But there was still that raw, unhealed wound that her absence had left. "I don't know what you want from me, Emily," I said quietly. "I don't know if I can just forgive you like that. It's not that simple." She nodded slowly, as though she already knew that. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. Not now, but I need to tell you something. Something I've been holding on to for a long time." I frowned. "What is it?" She took a deep breath. "I wasn't just running away from us. I was running from something else too. Something I never told you about. And if we're going to get any closure, I need to tell you the truth." I felt my chest tighten. The truth. What did she mean by that? What was it that she hadn't told me? I opened my mouth to ask, but before I could, she continued, her voice shaking. You might not like what you hear, but it's time you knew. I felt my heart start to race as Emily's words sank in. The truth. What was it she had kept hidden all this time? What was so important that she hadn't shared it with me before? The uncertainty gnawed at me, and despite my anger, a part of me wanted to hear what she had to say. She took another deep breath, gathering her thoughts, and for a moment, I could see the fear in her eyes. This wasn't just about us. This was something bigger, something more complicated. I could feel it in the way she hesitated, as though the weight of whatever she was about to say was too much to bear. Jake, I wasn't just running away from you, Emily began, her voice trembling slightly. I was running from something that happened before we even met. Something that I never told you, and I should have. But I was scared. I leaned forward, trying to process her words. I had no idea where this conversation was heading, but I could tell it was about to take a turn I wasn't prepared for. Before we met, I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Emily nodded, her hands shaking as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. Yes, before we met, I was in a really bad situation. I was involved with someone. Someone who wasn't who he appeared to be. And it wasn't just a fling, Jake. It was much worse than that. I furrowed my brow, confused. What do you mean? What happened? She took another deep breath, her face pale. His name was Andrew. I met him when I was still in college. He seemed perfect at first. Charming, successful, everything I thought I wanted. But over time, I started to see another side of him. A darker side. I sat back in my chair, completely thrown off guard. I had never heard her talk about anyone else before, not even a mention of an ex. What kind of dark side? He was controlling, she said, her voice trembling as she spoke. Manipulative. He started isolating me from my friends, my family, even you at one point. He'd always find a way to make me feel like I was the problem, like I was the one who was making things difficult. And I believed it. I felt my heart twist in my chest. Emily, the girl I knew, the girl I had loved, was caught up in something like that. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't the Emily I remembered. But why didn't you tell me? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, despite the anger and confusion flooding my mind. Why didn't you trust me enough to tell me? She looked down, her eyes filled with regret. I was ashamed, Jake. I was embarrassed. I thought I could fix it on my own. I thought I could get away from him without anyone knowing. But the more I tried to hide it, the worse it got. And then, when I finally realized how bad things had gotten, it was too late. I felt a knot form in my stomach. This wasn't the betrayal I had imagined. This was something deeper, something I couldn't have predicted. So, when you left, was it because of him? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Emily nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. Yes, he found out about us, Jake. He knew we were getting closer, and he didn't like it. He started threatening me, telling me that if I stayed with you, he would ruin my life. At first, I thought it was just talk. But then he started showing up places. He would watch me, follow me. And then, one night, he came to my apartment. My heart skipped a beat. What happened? I whispered, my throat dry. He hurt me, Jake. He didn't beat me or anything. But he made it clear that if I didn't end things with you, he would do worse. He would ruin everything I had, everything I was, and I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I felt sick to my stomach. Why didn't you tell me, Emily? Why didn't you come to me? I was terrified, Jake, she said, her voice breaking. I was scared of what he might do to me, to you, to everyone I loved. And I thought the best way to protect you was to just disappear, to get away from him, to keep you safe. I was speechless. I had no idea how to react. On one hand, I understood why she left. I understood the fear she must have felt, the pressure of being in an abusive relationship. But on the other hand, it felt like a betrayal. She had left me without a word, without a single explanation, all in the name of protecting me. But you didn't give me a choice, Emily, I said, my voice strained. You just disappeared. I had no idea what was going on. You left me in the dark, and now you expect me to just understand, to just forgive you. I don't expect forgiveness, Jake, she said softly. I just need you to understand why I did what I did. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to ask for help. I thought I was protecting you, but all I did was hurt you. I stared at her, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to yell at her, to demand answers for all the pain she had caused. But another part of me, the part that still cared about her, just wanted to take her in my arms and tell her that everything was going to be okay. But it wasn't okay. It wasn't that simple. You should have told me, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I could have helped you. We could have figured it out together. I know, she whispered, and I'm sorry. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. All I can do now is tell you the truth, and hope that maybe, just maybe, you can find it in your heart to understand. I didn't know what to say. There was so much I wanted to say, so much I wanted to scream. But for some reason all I could do was sit there and listen, feeling the weight of the truth settle heavily between us. The weight of Emily's confession hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I sat there, frozen, not sure what to say or even what I was feeling. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, had just crumbled away, leaving me with nothing but the jagged remnants of a broken relationship. I looked at Emily, her face pale, her eyes filled with guilt. She wasn't the person I had thought she was. But then again, who was I, really? The person I thought I was had been built around a lie, and now that the truth was finally out, I didn't know where to stand. I need some time to think, I finally said, my voice rough. I stood up, my legs shaky as I moved toward the door. Emily didn't stop me, she just watched, her expression torn between relief and sorrow. I didn't want to hurt her, but I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know how to move forward. Jake, please don't go, she pleaded, her voice trembling. I didn't want this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. Please, just listen to me. But I couldn't, not right now. The anger was too raw, the betrayal too fresh. I needed space to process everything she had just told me. I needed to figure out what I was supposed to do with this new reality. I can't, I said, my voice tight. I can't do this right now. I need some time. With that, I turned and walked out of the apartment, slamming the door behind me. The sound echoed in the empty hallway, and for a moment, it felt like the weight of everything I had lost was crashing down on me. I didn't know where to go. I didn't want to go back to my place, not with the memories of her still lingering there. I didn't want to see anyone either, because I knew they would ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. So, I just walked. My feet took me to the park, a place I used to go when I needed to clear my head. It was late, the streetlights casting long shadows across the empty paths. I found a bench near the small pond, sat down, and buried my face in my hands. What had happened? How had things gotten so messed up? Emily wasn't just a person I loved. She was someone I thought I could trust. But now, I didn't know what to believe. Had everything between us been a lie? Had she only stayed with me because she was afraid of him? Or was there something more to it? Something I was still missing? I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of thoughts that were swirling in my head. The pain was overwhelming. The hurt, the betrayal, the confusion. It all felt like too much to carry. And then, I remembered something Emily had said. He knew about us. Andrew had known about me, and he had threatened her to keep her away from me. I could feel my blood start to boil. This Andrew person had ruined everything. He had manipulated Emily into running from me, into hiding from the one person who could have helped her. I didn't know what I wanted to do about it yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. Not after everything. I pulled my phone from my pocket and started typing. I need to find this Andrew. I need to know where he is. The message was for a private investigator I knew from a previous case I had worked on. I didn't know if it was a good idea, but I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and let this guy continue to control Emily's life from the shadows. After I sent the message, I leaned back on the bench and stared up at the night sky. It was a clear night, the stars visible through the gaps in the trees. For a moment, I found myself wishing I could be anywhere but here. Anywhere but in this mess of lies and regret. But life didn't give me that option. I had to face this. I had to confront the truth, even if it meant tearing down everything I thought I knew about the person I loved. But what if it wasn't just Andrew I had to confront? What if Emily had been hiding more from me? What if the truth I had just heard was only a small piece of a much bigger puzzle? I wasn't sure if I was ready for that, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep running from this. I stood up, my mind racing with questions. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it was. I woke up the next morning with a sense of dread in my stomach, the events of the previous night replaying in my head like a broken record. I had stayed up far too late, wandering around the park and thinking about Emily's confession, trying to make sense of everything. But no matter how many times I turned the situation over in my mind, it still didn't feel real. It felt like a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. I hadn't spoken to her since I left her apartment. She had called me several times, but I ignored the calls. I wasn't ready to hear her voice. I wasn't ready to face her. The anger and the hurt were still too fresh, too overwhelming. But at some point, I knew I had to make a decision. I had to figure out what I was going to do next. I grabbed my phone and looked at the message I had sent to the private investigator the night before. He hadn't replied yet, but I wasn't surprised. I knew how these things worked. He'd be busy, gathering information. I wasn't going to get any answers right away, but I had to keep moving forward. I had to take control of the situation before it spiraled out of control completely. I needed to see Emily. I needed to talk to her, but I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know if I was even ready to forgive her. But part of me knew that I couldn't let this go without closure. I got dressed and drove over to her apartment. The streets were quiet, the early morning light casting long shadows across the pavement. I parked in front of her building and sat there for a moment, staring at the entrance. My heart pounded in my chest. A mix of anger, frustration, and confusion. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find, but I knew I had to talk to her. I couldn't just keep running away from this. I took a deep breath and walked up to her door, my hand shaking as I knocked. A few moments later, the door opened, and Emily stood there, her eyes red from crying. She looked at me for a long moment, as if unsure whether to let me in. "I didn't know if you'd come," she said quietly, her voice hoarse. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my emotions. "I had to," I said simply. "We need to talk." She nodded and stepped aside, allowing me to enter. I walked into the living room, my eyes scanning the space, taking in the familiar surroundings that no longer felt like home. Everything about this place felt different now. It was like a veil had been lifted, and I could finally see it for what it truly was, a facade. Emily closed the door behind me and sat down on the couch, her hands folded in her lap. She looked fragile, broken. But it was hard for me to feel sorry for her, not after everything that had happened. "I know you're angry," she said, her voice trembling. "And you have every right to be. But please, just hear me out. I never meant for any of this to happen." I stared at her for a moment, my anger bubbling to the surface. "You don't get it, Emily," I said, my voice rising. "You don't get what you've done. You lied to me. You kept all of this from me, everything about Andrew, about your past. How am I supposed to just let that go? How do you expect me to just forgive you?" Her face crumpled, and she lowered her head. "I never wanted to hurt you, Jake. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you the truth without losing you. I was terrified of what he would do if I told you. He's dangerous, Jake. You have to understand. He's not the person you think he is." I crossed my arms, trying to control the urge to yell. "I don't know what to think anymore. You've painted him as this monster, but you're the one who's been hiding everything from me. You let me think everything was fine, that we were fine. And now you expect me to just trust you again." "I wasn't hiding anything from you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I was trying to protect you. I was trying to protect us." I clenched my fists, trying to hold back my emotions. From what? From the truth? From reality? Because this feels like a nightmare, Emily, and I don't know if I can wake up from it. She stood up then, her face desperate. "Jake, please, understand. I never meant for it to go this far. I never wanted to lose you, and I'm sorry. So sorry that I didn't tell you sooner. But I swear, I never stopped loving you. I still love you." I felt my heart clench at her words, but the anger was still there, bubbling just beneath the surface. "You lied to me," I said, my voice cold. "And now you expect me to just forget about all of it." She took a step forward, her eyes pleading. "I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to fix this, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll make it right. I just need you to trust me again. Please." I looked at her, searching her face for any sign that she was telling the truth. Any sign that she wasn't still hiding something. But all I saw was the broken girl standing before me. The girl I had loved, who had lied to me, and I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. "I don't know if I can," I said quietly. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I understand, but I'm still here, Jake. I'm still here." And with that, I turned and walked out of the apartment, leaving Emily behind. As I closed the door behind me, I didn't feel any sense of closure. I didn't feel relief. All I felt was the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me, heavier than ever before. The next few days were a blur of uncertainty. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking through life in a fog. my thoughts constantly returning to Emily and her confession. It was as if everything I thought I knew about her had been ripped away, leaving only questions and doubt in its place. I had to admit, I didn't know what to do. My trust in her had been shattered, and while part of me still wanted to believe her, another part of me was afraid of what I might uncover if I kept digging into her past. Was Andrew really the monster she made him out to be? Or was he just another scapegoat in a story she had fabricated to keep me close? In my mind, the answer seemed obvious. I couldn't trust anyone anymore, and not even Emily. But I couldn't just walk away either, not without understanding the full extent of the situation, not without finding the truth. So, I made the decision to hire a private investigator. I knew it was risky, but I wasn't about to let things slide. I needed to know who Andrew really was and what kind of person he had been to Emily. The private investigator, a man named Thomas, seemed competent enough, but I couldn't help but feel a little uneasy about putting my trust in someone I barely knew. It wasn't until I received his first report that things began to take a dark turn. The first thing I noticed was the timeline. According to Thomas's findings, Emily and Andrew had been in contact far more frequently than she had led me to believe. There were phone records, text messages, and even photographs of them together, many of them taken when Emily had told me she was working late. The evidence was hard to ignore, and I couldn't help but feel betrayed all over again. But what stood out even more was the mention of a mysterious meeting between Emily and Andrew just weeks before I found out about their past. According to Thomas's sources, they had met at a cafe on the outskirts of town, a place Emily had never mentioned to me before. The investigator had managed to obtain a copy of the cafe's security footage, and what I saw on that tape made my stomach churn. Emily had been sitting at a table with Andrew, their conversation heated. She looked nervous, almost like she was trying to get something out of him, while Andrew remained calm and collected. But the way she kept glancing around, as though she were worried someone might be watching, made my blood run cold. The footage didn't capture everything, but it was enough to raise more questions. What was so important about that meet? And why hadn't Emily told me about it? I sat there, staring at the footage, trying to make sense of it all. The unanswered questions swirled in my mind, each one more troubling than the last. Had Emily been lying to me all along? Was she still hiding things from me? And what was her connection to Andrew now? I couldn't let it go. I had to find out more. The following day, I met with Thomas again to discuss his findings. We sat in a small cafe, the air thick with tension. I had to force myself to look him in the eye as he slid the file across the table to me. Inside, there were more details, more photographs, more reports, and my head spun as I tried to take it all in. "I've been able to track down some of Andrew's associates," Thomas said quietly, his voice low. "There's a lot of murky stuff going on. He's involved with some unsavory people, and it looks like he's been using Emily in some way. But what exactly that is, I'm not sure yet." "Why hasn't she told me about any of this?" I asked, my voice thick with frustration. Why didn't she tell me about these meetings? Why did she keep everything from me? Thomas paused, his eyes narrowing. "That's the million-dollar question. From what I've been able to gather, Emily's been trying to distance herself from Andrew for a while now. But whatever happened between them, whatever deal they made, it's not something she's been willing to talk about. Maybe she's afraid of what might happen if she does." I rubbed my temples, trying to stave off the headache that was forming. "Do you think she's still involved with him?" "It's hard to say," Thomas replied. "There are signs that she's trying to break free, but it's not that simple. Andrew has his hooks in her, and it's possible he's still using her in some way. The thing is, we don't know what he wants from her yet. But I'm getting closer to finding out." I looked at the investigator, my mind racing. What had I gotten myself into? What was Emily involved in? How deep did this go? I didn't know if I was ready for the answers, but I also knew I couldn't stop now. "I need to know everything," I said, my voice firm. "I need to know exactly what's going on. Can you get more information? I don't care what it takes. I have to find out what's really happening." Thomas nodded, his face grim. "I'll keep digging. But you need to be prepared for whatever comes next. This could get a lot messier before it gets any better." I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I was prepared at all. All I could think about was Emily, and what she had been keeping from me. If she was truly in danger, I had to find a way to help her. But if she was hiding something from me, something much darker than I had imagined, then I wasn't sure what I would do. As I left the cafe and stepped out into the street, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of something far bigger than I could ever have imagined. The truth was out there, but I had no idea how deep it went, or how far I was willing to go to uncover it. The days that followed were a blur. Every new piece of information I uncovered only seemed to raise more questions, and the weight of it all felt like it was crushing me. Emily had lied to me, and yet I still couldn't bring myself to walk away completely. There was too much at stake, too many loose ends. The fear of the unknown gnawed at me, and the longer I waited, the harder it became to figure out where the truth ended and the lies began. I met with Thomas again. This time, the look in his eyes told me everything I needed to know before he even spoke. There was something darker in his gaze now, a heaviness that wasn't there before. "It's worse than I thought," Thomas said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've managed to track down more information about Andrew and his associates. He's into some serious stuff, way more dangerous than we realized. But what I found..." He paused, collecting his thoughts. "What I found about Emily, it's not good." I felt my heart drop into my stomach. "What do you mean? What do you know?" Thomas slid a thick envelope across the table. Inside, there were photos and more documents, some of them old, some recent. The photos were of Emily and Andrew, but these weren't the ones from the cafe or the random meetings. These were different. These were taken in places I never expected. I stared at one, in particular a photo of Emily standing outside a building I recognized immediately. It was the old warehouse by the docks, a place I had passed dozens of times, never thinking much of it. But there she was, standing outside it, her expression one of fear, her body tense, as though she were waiting for someone, or trying to escape. "What the hell is this?" I asked, my voice shaking. "What's she doing here?" Thomas leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming on the table. "I did some digging. The warehouse is connected to some pretty dangerous people. People Andrew's been working with for years. But this..." He paused, then pointed to another photo. "This is something else. Look at the timestamp on this." I scanned the photograph. It was taken just a few hours before I had met Emily for lunch. "No," I whispered. "She met him again, didn't she?" Thomas nodded. "They're still in contact, but it's worse than just a simple reunion. Emily's been involved with Andrew's business in ways I didn't even know. She's been helping him, using her connections to cover his tracks, and..." He swallowed hard. "There's more. Much more." I felt a wave of nausea roll over me. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was all in front of me. I thought I knew her, thought I understood who she was, but the truth was something darker. Something far more sinister. I had to face the reality. Emily wasn't just an innocent victim in all of this. She had played a part in it. And that's what hurt the most. She had lied to me, not just once, but continuously. Every time I had asked her about Andrew, she had told me the same story, the same excuse, that they were done, that it was in the past. But now, with these photos and this evidence, I knew she was still involved, still walking a tightrope between me and him. I looked down at the envelope, the weight of everything bearing down on me. I had wanted answers, but now that I had them, I wasn't sure I was ready for them. What was I supposed to do with all this? Thomas spoke again, breaking my thoughts. "I've got more. I can't say everything's completely clear yet, but I'm getting close to figuring out how deep this goes. What I do know is that Emily has some sort of leverage over Andrew. That's why she's still involved with him, even though she says she's trying to break free. He's not letting her go that easily." "Leverage?" I repeated, confused. "What kind of leverage?" Thomas hesitated for a moment before answering, his face grave. "I think it's tied to something in her past, something Andrew knows about her, something that she's desperate to keep hidden." I froze. "Are you saying there's something else? Something she hasn't told me?" Thomas didn't answer right away. His eyes shifted toward the window, as if considering whether to continue. Finally, he sighed. "I don't know the details, but I can tell you this. Whatever it is, it's enough to keep her entangled with Andrew. Even now. Even after everything that's happened." The silence between us was thick with tension. I felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. Emily wasn't just hiding the truth about her relationship with Andrew. There was something more, a dark secret she was keeping from me. A secret so dangerous that it was the one thing preventing her from cutting ties with him. I thought back to everything she had told me over the months. The way she'd said she was done with him. How she'd promised she would never go back. Was it all a lie? Was everything we had built based on a foundation of deception? "I need to talk to her," I said suddenly, the words coming out of my mouth before I could stop them. Thomas looked at me, his eyes filled with concern. "You sure that's a good idea?" "I need to know the truth," I replied, my voice firm. "I can't keep living in this half-light. If she's hiding something, I need her to tell me. I'm not leaving until I have answers." Thomas didn't argue. He knew as well as I did that there was no turning back now. I left the cafe with a sense of finality hanging in the air. The truth was waiting for me, and I wasn't going to run from it anymore. Update 1. The drive to Emily's apartment felt like an eternity. Every light that flashed past me on the road seemed to blur together, and the air inside my car was thick with anticipation and dread. I had no idea what I was going to say to her. How could I? She had built a wall between us, a wall of lies and deceit that was now crumbling before my eyes. When I finally reached her building, I parked and sat in the car for a moment. My heart pounded in my chest. Was I really ready for this? Could I handle the truth, no matter how dark it might be? The part of me that had loved her truly, deeply loved her, was terrified of what I might uncover. But the other part, the part that needed answers, pushed me forward. I had to confront her. There was no other choice. I rang the buzzer. Hello? Emily's voice came through, muffled by the intercom. It's me, I replied, my voice steady but my hands trembling. We need to talk. There was a brief silence before she buzzed me in. I stepped out of the car and walked up the stairs to her apartment, my mind racing with the potential outcomes of this conversation. When I reached her door, I knocked. The sound echoed down the hallway, making the moment feel even more surreal. She opened the door slowly, her eyes widening when she saw me standing there. Why are you here? She asked, her voice soft but guarded. I need answers, Emily, I said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I need to know what's really going on, what you've been hiding from me. Her face faltered for a second, but she quickly masked it with a calm expression. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't buy it. You can't lie to me anymore. I know about the photos, about the warehouse, about everything. Emily's face drained of color. How do you know about that? She whispered, her voice trembling. I've been talking to Thomas, I replied, my voice sharp. He's been digging, and now I know everything. You've been involved with Andrew this entire time. You never stopped seeing him, did you? What's going on, Emily? She took a step back, her eyes darting around as if looking for an escape. You don't understand, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't want any of this. I didn't want it to get this far. Then what was all of this? I demanded, gesturing around her apartment. What was the point of all of it, if you never wanted to be involved? You could have told me the truth, Emily, but you chose to lie. Again and again. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. You don't understand what it's like, what I've had to do. I never wanted to hurt you. I stepped forward, my voice softening slightly. Then why didn't you tell me the truth? Why didn't you trust me? I was trying to protect you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I never wanted you to get mixed up in all of this, but it's too late now. You're already involved. You don't know how dangerous Andrew is, or how far he's willing to go to keep me in his grip. Then tell me, I urged, desperation creeping into my voice. Tell me everything. I can't keep living like this, Emily. She hesitated for a long moment, her eyes flickering with doubt. Finally, she spoke, her words barely audible. I'll tell you everything, but you have to promise me something first. What? I asked, my tone impatient. You have to promise me that you'll stay out of it, that you won't try to help me anymore. I stared at her, the weight of her request sinking in. How could she expect me to walk away now, after everything I had learned? But I didn't want to make her more afraid. I needed the truth, no matter what it cost. I can't promise you that, I said quietly, but I will listen. I just need to know what's been going on. Emily let out a shaky breath. It's all my fault. I should never have gotten involved with Andrew in the first place. But once I did, it was too late. I owe him everything. He saved me when I had nothing left. And now, I'm trapped. He knows too much about me, about my past. I stood there shocked. What does he know about you? Emily hesitated again, her eyes flickering with fear. I don't want to say it. Not like this. You have to, I insisted. If we're going to have a chance at fixing this, I need to know everything. She nodded slowly, her voice trembling. I was involved with a crime, a long time ago. Something terrible happened, and Andrew, he knows what I did. He has proof. If I try to walk away, he'll ruin me. He'll expose everything. My life would be over. The room felt like it was closing in on me. The betrayal, the lies, the fear, everything was hitting me all at once. I had no idea what to say. What could I say to someone in this kind of situation? What could I say to the woman I loved, who had now become someone I didn't recognize? The air in the room was thick with the weight of Emily's confession. She stood there, wringing her hands, waiting for me to react. But I was frozen. my mind racing through the consequences of what I had just heard. "You're telling me that Andrew has this kind of leverage over you?" I asked, barely able to form the words. Emily nodded slowly, her eyes full of fear. "Yes, he knows everything. I never meant for it to go this far, but now I can't back out. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. He's dangerous, and I'm in too deep." I took a deep breath, trying to make sense of what she was saying. "So, what does he want from you?" "He wants me to keep working for him, to keep doing the things I've been doing. But I can't. I've had enough, and I'm done. I need to be free from him." "Then why didn't you come to me earlier?" I demanded, my voice rising slightly. "Why let me get caught up in all of this? Why drag me into a mess that you could have stopped yourself?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted you to be involved, I swear. But I was scared, okay? I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't want to lose you." Her words hung in the air, but there was something else. There's something I wasn't sure I could ignore. She wasn't just asking for forgiveness. She was asking for my help, my support. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't just her mess. It was mine now too, and I had a choice to make. "Emily," I said, taking a step toward her, "I love you, but I'm not going to stand by and watch you destroy yourself." She looked up at me, her face pleading. "Please, don't leave me. I need you." I shook my head slowly, my heart breaking as I said the words I never thought I'd say. "I'm sorry, but I can't be a part of this. Not anymore." The silence between us was deafening as she absorbed my words. There was no going back now. I had made my choice, and I could only hope that she would find a way out on her own. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.